I think first things first, like, we kind of hear when, the moment we hear of a franchise, automatically we think of, whether it's the KFCs or the McDonald's and the global chains. But um, especially like, sitting in India now, that's a huge market for McDonald's to tap, right? But at the same time, they have to really customize um, their offering based on Indian tastes or tastes in China or wherever it may be. So, as a person who takes up a franchise, how much do you have within your scope of trying out new things, and how much do you have to stick to the guidelines, and how does that work?
Any smart international franchise brand understands that they have to adapt to the region.
Hmm.
What most of them do is, rather than being, a bunch of Americans sitting in a cubicle in, Atlanta or New York City, determining how the business should be run in, New Delhi or Beijing or someone else, what they'll usually do is contract with what they'll call a master franchisee or licensee or master franchisor, who basically act as the franchisor in that region. And it's someone who knows that country, who knows that territory. And then together they'll figure out what's the best way to market it, what are the best offerings. And that person or that group is more qualified to operate it in that region. And so the franchisor, wherever they're headquartered around the world, whether it's the US or someone else, they'll take a licensing fee, maybe some kind of percentage, but that regional person acts as the franchisor there, selling locations and supporting franchisees. And
Uh-huh.
so that's usually how it works. But the smart brands, they're going to adapt what they offer to accommodate, the local region.
Yeah. No, and how much is left in a job? Like, what I mean by that is, it almost seems when you hear the kind of voices out there, is that everyone wants a better job, everyone wants to move up, and why not, right? But when you talk about job satisfaction, you talk about employee satisfaction. Uh, what does it take? I mean, are there people happy to do certain jobs, or does everyone want to be the manager? Everyone want to be a senior person, like, um, and it kind of all becomes a pecking order, right? That you kind of look down on someone who had your earlier job. So how do you face, especially with the changing landscape now, and we have so many new aspirations, we have so many new avenues opened up with YouTubing and influencers online. Um, how does a franchise, um, taking up a franchise, number one, maybe also working for something like a McDonald's, because it's always like, oh, McDonald's, you kind of look down at people who work there. But how does it actually work? Like, I mean, how do you make these jobs, um, you know, enticing or welcoming, or something that people can aspire to also, maybe?
Everyone who applies for a job wants something different. And not everybody wants upward mobility within that job. For example, my son is a teenager. His
Mm-hmm.
first job was working for sort of an iconic hamburger chain based here in California called In-N-Out Burger,
Oh yeah,
which you
I've been
wouldn't
there.
have. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, they're the one of the few places that really do a good veggie sandwich, if you have tried it, because otherwise it's pretty hard to get something which is, thing. So I think I forget what it's called, but it's delicious. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
they're not
So
known for their vegetable sandwich, but yeah.
right. But I mean, it's sort of an iconic brand. So my son got his first job there, but he had no desire to grow in the company and be a manager of a fast food chain or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was looking to make some money so he could, buy video games and go out with his friends and get something on his resume. And so, a lot of these franchises, they're hiring hourly workers who, a lot of their goal is just to make money. In some cases, it's full time. People might be wanting to support families, but they may not necessarily have ambition to grow within that company.
Mm-hmm.
Other people just want some job experience, and some people do want to grow. McDonald's has an extremely high turnover rate. Last time I worked with them, I was told that they call it the churn rate. It's about 100%. That on average, it might be even worse than that. That if you go to McDonald's 1 year later, 100% of the employees will be different. They didn't last the year. But what's interesting is those who do, they're the ones who become the managers and the general managers, and eventually have corporate salary jobs. Like a lot of them, there is that opportunity in an organization like that. But if you're a owner of a, just a local McDonald's restaurant, you're not necessarily hiring people who are looking to build a career. In that instance, you're probably looking for people who are looking for their first job, who may not have a background. And so you're giving them that opportunity and you're hoping they last more than a few months. So you're not having to constantly hire. So everyone comes with something different. And it's something a lot of managers struggle with. I've written one book. My next book is all about managing hourly workers and how to get better retention and better performance. And so much of that is having a better understanding of what people want today, as opposed to what you think they want or what you believe they should want.
Yeah, because when you have someone, yeah, you're right. The motivation behind why they want to work is absolutely individual. But at the same time, if you have completely new people, everything, the experience, of course, no one comes to McDonald's expecting a bond with the server, right? Saying, oh, I remember you. Then, like, the cafes or the boutiques where you tell stories across the counter and you play chess or do whatever they do in coffee shops, right?
I don't know where you're getting coffee or people playing chess, but I think I know your point.
Yeah, no, there was a place when I did my undergrad in a little town near Portland, Oregon. And a friend and I used to go to this coffee shop called the Union Block, and there were these kind of barista places, right, where you would get the coffee really sort of well presented, and they had a person playing the piano, and then my friend's like, let's play chess, and I'm like, dude, I just came for coffee. I don't even know how to play chess. So it's really left a sore point with me, because I came out for a coffee, and then I left feeling bad that I can't play chess. So I'm like, yeah, screw that place.
You just want an energy jolt and you leave feeling like a loser.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can't do a Queen's Gambit.
Seriously, I mean, I all I wanted was this really, really nice dish they had called raspberry bear claw and an almond joy coffee, and then I left feeling really demotivated about my life. Yeah.
I wish I could have been there for you. I would have done my best to lift your spirits.
Thanks, Scott. No, it means a lot, even 20 years later, that you bring it up and help. But yeah, so typical McDonald's. I mean, I really because the conversation you have when it comes to a franchise, right, be it like, I mean, they have things like, even besides food, like Snap Fitness, you have these gym subscriptions and these things across the world.
Yeah.
I don't know why is it seen. I don't know if I've got the wrong perspective or the wrong idea when it comes to this, but is it seen that franchises or franchisees or the idea of a franchise is lower quality and a little cheaper? Is there a perception?
It depends on the sector. When people think of franchising, the first thing that comes to mind is quick service restaurants, also known as fast food.
Yeah.
And so, the food service restaurants, that is certainly a very large sector, but there's so many others, such as, hotel chains. A lot of hotel chains are franchises. People don't realize that, it is, individually owned and operated, under this sort of well-known international brand name.
Yeah.
Home services. So companies that will come in, and whether they're going to paint or whether they're going to redo your kitchen or do, clean your pool or do your landscaping, many of those are franchises. There are franchises that are medical clinics where employees are medical doctors, and, senior in-home care, child care, preschools. I think in some cases, people don't necessarily think it's lower quality, but they think of franchise, they think of a chain. And if their idea of quality, that it's a individually owned mom and pop place that's going to have more character and more of those kinds of recipes, in some people's minds, there's quality there. But mom and pops are just as capable of running a crappy restaurant as a franchise, right?
Without any oversight. Yeah.
It's just a little bit more romantic that it's the mom and pop shop. So, I think the perception varies, but a lot of people just don't like the idea of a chain. The other thing too is they think that, well, if I go to a Burger King or McDonald's or KFC, well, then I'm supporting this big corporate entity. You're really not. That corporate entity is only getting, 5 or 7% of the sales. It's a local mom and pop who own that KFC. I mean, it could be a larger company who owns 100 KFCs, but half of franchises are single unit. So it's no different than a mom and pop. They're just paying a percentage to a corporate entity.
Right.
So you're still supporting, you're still supporting a family and the local economy most of the time when you patronize an individual franchise.
You know what's very strange? When you're in a place, you say you live there, you avoid chains, right? You kind of get to know the place. You kind of, as you said, you find the rapport with the local neighborhood store or the coffee shop, or you go to your gym, which is in your head, you're like, oh, I've broken from the system. I'm using my familiarity with the place to go down to the roots and get to know the locals. While, as you just said, the chains are also run by the locals and by the moms and pops. But the moment you leave and you go to an unfamiliar place, like say you travel internationally, you really seek comfort in the chains, right? Because you don't want to eat and get your stomach messed up at a local food stall, but you want to go and just get a burger. And I've heard a lot of people say this, like a lot of my American friends are like, "Oh man, when I come to India, I just want to have a burger at McDonald's because it's home in some way." So it's very strange that when you're at home, you want to distance yourself from that, but when you're abroad, you want to go back to that because that is your representation of being home.
You're right. You know, one of my most embarrassing moments, my wife and I were in Venice, Italy.
Hmm.
And yeah, we do try to go to the local places because I can get McDonald's or Starbucks or, you know, a lot of these, I can get that anywhere.
Yeah.
I want to go to try things that are new and different and authentic to the region. And, you know, um, do you have Domino's Pizza in India?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if I go to Italy, I don't want to go to a Domino's. I want to try the pizza, right?
Or an
But
Olive
I
Garden.
remember,
Yeah.
yeah, but I remember we were in Italy for like 2 weeks. It was great, but we ended up in Venice, and I just had so much Italian food up until that point. And I don't eat fast food much anymore. But back then, I would occasionally go to McDonald's. My wife and I were like, "Yep, something familiar would be so great," but we didn't know where one was, and so we asked a couple gondoliers on the
Yeah.
side of the street, "Hey, where's a local McDonald's?" And the look on their face, like we were these horrible Americans in Venice, Italy, asking for McDonald's. They're like, "Oh, you can smell it." I mean, they could not have been more offended and more judgmental. And I just felt so embarrassed for even asking. But boy, when I finally got that McDonald's, it hit the spot at the time. I just needed something
Yeah.
familiar.